Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian at the headquarters of the Office of Naval Research, sitting down for the final interview with Rear Admiral Matt Winter, who is the Chief of Naval Research. Sir, thanks for meeting with us.
Thanks, Vago. Good to be here. Thanks.
And fair winds following seas, your next assignment is to go to the world's easiest program, the F-35 Lightning II.
Yes, I'll be the Deputy Director coming in behind Rear Admiral Randy Marr. I'm looking forward to that opportunity.
Became the Chief of Naval Research in late 2014. You're now moving on to a very, very easy job as the Deputy Director of the F-35 Lightning II program. Tell us a little bit about what you feel are your most important accomplishments while you've been on the job.
Well, for the last 2 years, the biggest important accomplishments, I believe, that I've seen, most folks think I'm going to talk about the science of science and the eye watering, the ability to 3D print artery veins and capillaries, the ability to bring endless supplies of electrons and electricity out of the seabed, laser cannons, rail guns, those types of things. But I'm here to tell you, Vago, it's the people. It's the scientists and technicians of the Office of Naval Research and the Naval Research Laboratory, the 4,000 that call this command home, that continue to do the eye-watering discovery of knowledge that only God knew yesterday, that then begets the technology breakthroughs that truly gives our sailors and Marines the technological advantage on our battlefield. Over these last 2 years, I've seen a growth and an expansion of the awareness of the ONR mission, not only down and in with the pride and admiration, but up and out. The expansion and understanding in our international domain with the 60 countries that we have S&T relationships with, across our Department of Defense, and a renewed awareness of what each of the services are doing so that we minimize duplication and we increase the bang for the buck across the Department of Defense. Department of Navy has been a leader in that collaboration, cooperation, and communication to ensure that our scientists are truly doing the relevant science that gives us our capabilities for our sailors and Marines. I'll go on to other areas of technology that I'm truly admire and very proud of, but I have to underpin, it's truly the scientists, the technicians, and the support staff of the Office of Naval Research that I'm most proud of.
What from a technological standpoint, though, because obviously people are what make the organization tick, but from a technological standpoint, what are some of the things that are standouts for you?
Yeah, so we're actually celebrating our 70th anniversary this year. And as we look at that, we have an opportunity to reflect on not only the last 2 years, but the enabling capabilities that have provided us the results of these last 2 years. And that's an important element for science and technologists. When our Chief of Naval Operations or our Commandant of the Marine Corps or Fleet or Force Commander brings us a hard problem, if we start at a blank piece of paper or cold iron, we have failed as science and technologists. And I'm here to tell you over these last 2 years, the tough problems, the emergence of real-time rapid capability requirements that have come to our doorstep, we have had solution space already generated from that basic research that's fed the experimentation and demonstration that has allowed us to bring electronic warfare solutions to our surface ships to ensure the vulnerabilities have been filled and that their capability to be able to fight the fight is maintained. The opportunity to engage in the cyber domain to ensure that we lock our computers, lock our networks, to ensure that the vulnerabilities have been identified, but more importantly, that our capabilities have moved forward. Electric weaponry, the ability to take a piece of metal and accelerate it over 100 feet to Mach 5 through taking the Lorentz force. That's a physicist that told us that we can take electromagnetic propagation and actually get an orthogonal force. The ability to bring that together with the advanced materials to be able to absorb that pressure and thermal deltas is absolutely incredible. Never been done before. That's a proud moment for our scientists as well as our engineers and our ship drivers who will benefit from having that advanced gun capability in the near future. Laser cannons underpinned by energy density. That's not cool. Nobody really talks about energy density. But if you think about being able to take all the energy you need to be able to operate a railgun, to operate a laser cannon, to have an endless supply of capability, and be able to do that in a form factor that allows us to feasibly integrate this on our ships, which we have gotten to. That's incredible breakthrough, but it's not really seen above the waterline. other areas like unmanned systems and the intelligence systems, other things that you really can't see. I call it algorithmic phenomenology, the intelligent parts of our systems that have not only found their ways into our military applications, but have found their ways into industry and into academia that really has helped the quality of life of our American population and our international partners. All very important, Vago.
I want to get to the technology in just a minute. Obviously, I want to talk to you about lasers as well as electric guns and underwater and unmanned systems as well. But let me ask you, as you're one of the organizations that's been around a long time as part of the technology tapestry inside the Defense Department. And you said, one of the keys was avoiding duplication. One of the priorities for the department during the last several years has been the Innovation Initiative, or initiatives, we should say, right? The Strategic Capabilities Office to look at existing systems and how to give them more bang. The folks at DARPA that are not very far from you over in this neighborhood, they've been, in the game for a long time as well. You have the Defense Innovation Unit Experimental, DIUX, and everybody is trying to feed into the third offset. From your standpoint as leading one of the key technology organizations within the Defense Department, how important has that innovation initiative been? We're looking at a change of administration. How important is it for it to survive, as far as you're concerned, as an engine for change?
Sure. Well, I'd start out with that the Office of Naval Research truly is, in its DNA, an innovative organization. When we tell human beings to be innovative, there's some confusion. What does that mean? For us, it means to ensure that there's a culture, a command climate that brings together the best and brightest to tackle the toughest problems. And in that critical thinking and in that exploring and discovering and invention, generates solution space that actually germinates innovative ideas. And we've seen that decade after decade in the Office of Naval Research. And I've seen that with our partnership with our DARPA teammates, where we have a number of collaborative projects ongoing and transitions to the services. So that innovative spirit, that culture and climate that germinates and generates innovative ideas, I think is prevalent throughout the Department of Defense. It can get overshadowed by some of our program of record and other acquisition policies that are very relevant but may not be as agile. We can tackle those where we need to. But from a science and technology domain, and the emphasis that I've seen Secretary Carter and his leadership team put on innovation, and Secretary Mabus and his team put on innovation, I think has done nothing but help us. It's brought it to the forefront. It's generated organizations like DIUX, who we have, the Office of Naval Research, have a great relationship with, because they can reach out to non-traditional, I call them another set of performers. It's important that if you have a problem and the resources to do that, but you ask a plumber to do the carpenter's job, you're not going to get the efficient outcome. And being able to have DIUX to be able to reach out and find those performers that truly are orthogonal to the performer set that we have can do nothing but be beneficial to solving our hardest problems. So I see senior leadership's focus on reinvigoration and commitment to an innovative culture, innovative command climate, and innovative investments, really making the Department of Defense an innovative organization for change, not only here in the United States, but on the global stage.
And so that would be something that you would recommend, that even as a new team comes in, to consider the benefits of continuing a strategy like this?
I do, absolutely. The Office of Naval Research, along with my sister S&T chiefs in the Army and the Air Force, which we meet monthly together with the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, who has the executive agent responsibility for the Secretary of Defense in S&T. We meet monthly to discuss what we're investing in, our efforts, our experimentations, our demonstration, our partnerships, so that we can identify duplication. Some duplication is okay, but too much duplication it's inefficient. So those types of engagements, again, awareness of what we're doing is absolutely essential to ensuring that the Department of Defense as a whole is as efficient in its innovation challenges as possible.
One of the things, you're very proud of being the mad scientist of the Navy that you've talked about very, very pridefully. What are, and obviously folks know what you're doing with electric guns and know about lasers and that kind of stuff. But what are some of the other novel stuff that you're working on that you can talk about that you find as exciting that people may not know as much about?
Yeah, so I find when I start talking about those novel areas, it's important to be able to connect with the individuals or the groups and the organizations you're talking to. The corpus of knowledge that is generated by basic research is foundationally misunderstood in certain circles. There's a lot of focus on experimentation and demonstration because that's a visible outcome and something that we can actually see something blow up, see something flying around, seeing swarming activities occur. What I look at in the novel concepts, the investment areas that we as the Office of Naval Research, guided by our S&T strategy, approved by our senior CNO and Commandant leadership, are looking in areas of nanotechnologies. Nanotechnologies that bring together advanced material research that one day will allow us to have materials that allow you and I to talk without verbally conversing, to share ideas and thought patterns. You might talk about it as ESP. I talk it about being able to utilize the current waveforms that are resonant today, but we just haven't cracked the nut on how to bring that to fruition. So nanotechnology, advanced materials, photonics, coupled with the quantum theory philosophies and research, the ability to do that quantum sensing, utilizing biological capabilities that currently exist in nature and being able to extract their capabilities with quantum and be able to utilize our nature's undersea, surface, even in space domain to be able to do the ISR, the ability to sense and understand our environments. There's incredible research that's ongoing with our performance in academia and industry that brings together that basic research corpus of knowledge so that we can have things coming out of those domains that, like our railguns and our laser cannons. And I use those because those are marquee science and technology demonstrations that are finding their way into our programs of record, and it will find their way whole scale into our warfighters' capabilities. The other areas, Vago, where we sit and talk about applications and we find out that the application works well in the laboratory but doesn't scale to the warfighting domain, is not a failure. Although people talk about we should fail fast, I say we should learn fast. And take a page out of the Chief of Naval Operation Richardson's book on high velocity learning. It's not about reading faster. It's not about working faster. It's about truly understanding what's your hypothesis, what are you trying to do? Have a plan to execute that learning. And then when you execute it, be able to do the assessment of what you thought was going to happen to what actually happened. And then you learn from that. And we do that every day in our basic research and our applied research. And then we bring forward those areas that show promise, feasibility, applicability, aligned to our focus areas within the S&T domain, guided by our fleet and force demands for warfighting capability gaps.
Do you think that there's too much of a focus sometimes on the applied and the end product as opposed to saying, look, there's an enormous value to doing this basic investment to crack some of these secrets ultimately?
So your question about is there too much or is there an inordinate amount on that? We have a 4-box investment portfolio assessment strategy where we talk about basic research that then feeds technology push. Those are things that nobody's asked for, but our scientists and our ability to understand what would make a good feasible capability, we push that until it's a well-known and then it starts to get pulled. And we have dedicated pull technologies that come out of that basic research that we know can reduce overall ownership costs, increase reliability, increase range and speed and other warfighting capabilities of already established and fielded capabilities. And then the fourth is rapid response when we really have an urgent need where science and technology can help. Those 3 boxes of technology push, technology pull, and rapid response are all fed by basic research. And so when we have the dialogue in senior leadership circles about increasing the technology push, pull, and rapid response, I'm quick to caution that we must continue to do the basic research. Otherwise, the pump will cavitate. As we move resources here and reduce the basic research, we'll be able to experiment and demonstrate to a certain point, but then the good idea bin and the discovery and invention bin will be empty. So very important that we continue to focus on basic research.
One of the things you talked about was the laser. Obviously, the laser, former CNO John Greenert deployed a laser aboard USS Ponce. It's in the Persian Gulf. That laser was developed by the Office of Force Transformation that was headed by the late retired Vice Admiral Art Zebrowski. What are and that laser was sent out there for a whole variety of applications to test feasibility, utility. It's a gritty, humid, hot climate. There are all sorts of challenges associated with it, whether you can use it for unmanned vehicles or a whole bunch of other applications. Now that that system has been fielded for a while, what are some of the lessons that you've drawn from it, and where is the state of the art of laser technology? Is this something that's more fiction and an experimental product, or is it within a few years, could we see something that becomes an absolutely deployable weapon system that's game-changing?
Great question, Vago. So the LAWS system, and I'll refer to it as LAWS, that's the capability that's currently on the Ponce, continues to provide us lessons learned across the spectrum of operational, so ConOps and understanding how we should employ laser weapon systems, to technical, understanding energy density and storage, the ability for high graphic optics, and understanding the laser combining capabilities, understanding more efficient ways to get the percentage of energy out of the storage to actually to do the end state, as well as maintenance and reliability lessons learned on shipboard integration of these types of capability. We have our solid state laser technology maturation. It's the acronym is SSLTM, that continues to be funded by the Office of Naval Research, where we've done a number of experimentation in the laboratory in bringing together combiners, the energy storage, and working with our industry partners to bring a full system to our self-defense test ship in the fiscal year 18, end of FY18, to do a 150 kilowatt demonstration. Now, people hang their hat on the kilowatt and the amount of power. We're looking at making sure that we can integrate something that has the ability to have the energy storage, to be able to have the capability to manipulate and to combine and then project laser energy in a tracking mode, and the safety constructs and the graphics interface for the sailors to operate. All of those are the types of experimentation objectives that SSLTM will bring to the table and verify. So directed energy, specifically the laser energy of directed energy, continues to make incredible strides and progress. Chief of Naval Operations Richardson has put as a priority a directed energy investments and directed energy science and technology maturity at the forefront, because he realizes the game-changing capability that lasers will bring to our forward deployed forces, not only in surface ship, where we're looking first, but also in air applications and undersea applications.
It really makes your intercept calculation easy when the weapon itself is moving at 186,000 miles per second.
So you have the speed of light number correct. I sit and talk about things
discovered at the United States Naval Academy.
Thank you very much, right? The United States Navy, once again, leading the charge. But the fact that we understand how to do weaponeering right now for our current traditional weapons. What is the weaponeering for directed energy? There's a lot of discovery. There's a lot of calculation left to do. You talked about the deformation, the degradation that atmospherics has on specific energy as it goes through. We saw that with JDAMs and laser-guided weapons, right? But the actual free fall of the bomb is really not impacted by clouds or other things, but laser energy, absolutely. So one of the comments I bring to my scientists, I say, how long does it take to cook a 2-minute egg? And the question comes back, well, it's 2 minutes. And I go, no, actually it depends. So as we think about directed energy and the application of directed energy, we need to understand the spectrum of targets and impacting of different material types, from steel and composites to wood and so forth. And we need to understand the degradation that the atmospherics brings to the table, and the power reductions and the reliability of being able to bring that energy and get it on spot, on target. All of that's part of SSLTM and other investments that the Department of the Navy is bringing to bear to give us formidable capability in the laser domain.
One of the other weapons that you guys have been working on for some time is electric guns, electromagnetic cannons. You're getting muzzle velocities and energy rates that are just absolutely fantastic in terms of some of the tests, even nearby at Yorktown and elsewhere where you've been testing these at Dahlgren. Excuse me. The Navy just commissioned the USS Zumwalt, which is the new most powerful destroyer in the world, that has two 6-inch guns on it that was rocket-assisted, precision-guided, long-range guns, but the rounds are expensive, and it looks like the Navy is not going to buy any more of those expensive rounds. And that's a ship because of its vast power generation, a 75 megawatt, 78, 75, thereabout, power generation capacity, as being an ideal candidate to someday host railgun technology. From your standpoint, given how much investment you guys have put in this, is the railgun something that is going to be a viable, realistic weapon system? And if so, when? Does it work, for example, as a replacement to that 6-inch gun technology when you can use something that is considerably, significantly more powerful?
So, Vago, I will talk and answer that question in the authority domain that I have, which is the science and technology domain. The ops analysis for trade-offs of current weapon systems versus potential weapon systems, and the decisions or the feasibility to pursue resides in other domains in our system commands with our OpNav fleet commanders and the Chief of Naval Operations. But from your basic question, the technologies that underpin the railgun, the ability to take a projectile and accelerate it kinetically without any high explosives necessary to give formidable kinetic impact for engaging a suite of target sets. The feasibility of that is absolutely, the answer to that is yes. We have the science and technology underpinning the barrel, the energy storage, and the ability to extract that energy to be able to provide that projectile the kinetic energy to move downrange. We are working with our sister engineering organizations in NAVC and SPAWAR to be able to come forward to understand the best projectiles and projectile capabilities to give added capability after you have that exit velocity of a projectile. I see, as the Chief of Naval Research, electric weaponry and the outgrowth of those, the projectiles, a formidable capability that will find its way into our Navy warfighting capabilities on surface ships. And as I've challenged my scientists, I want to see a railgun in a handgun, and the ability to do what can't be done, that's scoffed at and says is absolutely impossible, we put on our list. And the ability to take energy and put it in small compact forms safely and extract it will be an enabling capability for future suites of weaponry, not only on ships, potentially with our Marines, soldiers, and other ground forces.
How long do you think? Is it a 5-year window, a 3-year window, a 10-year window?
Right. So I say science and technology, and specifically discovery and invention, cannot be scheduled. The current understanding of the energy storage and the ability to take the railgun barrel and then put together a control system, the control system and the ability to control the railgun itself and integrate it into our overall integrated warfare systems, that's the job of our engineers, and that's the authority of our Program Executive Office for Integrated Warfare System, PEO IWS. And they have been given the acquisition executive agent authority and responsibility by our Secretary of the Navy for research and defense, research, development, and acquisition.
Sean Stackley.
Yeah, Mr. Stackley, our boss. So I see that measured in years based upon the business of development and the ability to get through the appropriate policies and integration, technical integration, but measured in single-digit years.
And I know that about the Zumwalt, obviously that is a Navy acquisition issue. But one thing that the Strategic Capabilities Office, Dr. Roper, has been working on, along with the Navy and the Army, has been on longer-range conventional gun capability and a whole bunch of technologies that get you to that point where you can get a higher velocity round a lot farther with precision. Where do you think the state of the art there is to completely change the gun game, the conventional propellant gun game that we've had for centuries?
Sure. I won't speak specifically about Dr. Roper and his efforts. I'll leave you the opportunity to interview him. But the Strategic Capability Office and the Office of Naval Research has a very strong relationship. We look at the ability to take our science and technology experimentation and demonstration coming out of what I call the S&T domain and then brought into the 6-4 prototyping and demonstration domain, which is squarely where the Strategic Capability Office resides. So it's really a partnership and a transition opportunity. But I also have that same transition in partnership with my Department of Navy sponsors in the OpNav and the Headquarters Marine Corps. Where I see projectile technology, where I see the energetic solutions to take currently fielded Mark 45 gun systems, for example, and be able to increase the megajoule output, right? We talk about megajoules on our railgun and looking for the appropriate 32 megajoule effort. Right now, our Mark 45 gives us about a 15 to 18 megajoule output now. So the question is, what's the market increase for the investment? I see continued focus on the projectile technology to providing our warfighter a bigger increase in capability than specifically looking at the energetics of the actual gun system. But we have investments in both, and we'll continue to mature both, and we'll be able to bring solution space to the Headquarters Marine Corps and our OpNav staff so that they can make well-informed decisions of what investments they should pursue into the future.
You, before taking this job, was the Navy's unmanned chief, where you were first to occupy the office where Secretary Mavis said, hey, look, we need a dedicated person to oversee this broad and important domain. Do you think, as you look at undersea, as you look at unmanned systems, we were just at the Submarine League show, and submarine force leaders were talking about, we've been talking about large diameter underwater vehicles or extra large diameter underwater vehicles, and obviously a very challenging environment, right? You need high automation, extreme range, high depth operating capability. So it's a very, very challenging requirement in the harshest environment on the planet. But there are those who say we could be more agile. Do we need to adopt some commercial systems, for example, get out there and play with them as opposed to waiting, as some have said, for these dedicated sort of systems to evolve and to develop? From your experience in the space, both in your last job but also in this job, how is the unmanned game changing? And what's the best way to drive it forward to keep that innovative spirit and to field these systems that the fleet and the force need and can use on a timely basis?
Sure. We have to start, Vago, with the requirement. And our undersea domain leadership has an incredible, clear, logical, prudent, and thorough undersea ConOps plan that shows how the blended manned and unmanned capabilities will help be able to accomplish and provide the capabilities that they need. And I see that no different than that with the surface and for the air. I see personally manned and unmanned as complementary. And so as the scientists and the technologists providing those enabling capabilities, no matter what the USB stick looks like, it might be a UUV, a USV, or UAV, what we see is the enabling algorithmic phenomenology to be able to do sense and avoid. You have to do that in all three domains. The ability to rapidly transform payloads and integrate payloads and be able to do autonomous environmental sensing to make good decisions on navigation, on engagement, be able to communicate, be able to do all those types of things. We have a number of what I call innovative naval prototype investments ongoing right now that are tackling those large-scale UUV and USV deployments that we will see in the future. I do not see unmanned taking man out of the loop. I see that blend of capability. And if we keep that in our forefront, in our technology strategies, in our programmatic strategies, in our business strategies, specifically with industry, and understand it's not all or none, but a blending, and bring those solutions to us that are blended, I think we will be able to field these capabilities more expeditiously.
Do you think that the acceptance of commercial systems, for example, specifically to the answer that, hey, look, we're waiting so long on some of these systems to field them, would it be better to play around with commercial technology as an interim step to building those more ambitious systems of the future? Is that, do you think, one of the keys to that, or?
So I'll probably hearsay, and somebody will probably email me after they hear this comment, but I don't see it taking a long time to field unmanned systems. I was the unmanned aviation guy, not the all unmanned, right?
Right.
When we verified the requirement and said this is what we really want to go do, we were able to produce and deliver at all different sizes, Group 1 through Group 5, unmanned aviation vehicles and systems for our warfighter rather expeditiously. What I see in the UUV, I mean, right now, we have hundreds of UUVs deployed right now, hundreds. Yeah, granted, most are in the meteorological, oceanographic, supporting Admiral Gallaudet's mission, but we have those. And the ability to do that is resident not only in industry, but within our Department of Navy's warfare centers and system centers. The time tax to getting things delivered really revolves around clearly identifying what we want. And then once we realize what we want, which is really a cyclic discussion about what can we do, what's feasible with what do we want, and that's a good dialogue that we have on a regular basis, to then being able to go in, what is the appropriate business strategy? Is it sole source? Is it a competition? Is it a whole scale with our industry partners, or is it within the confines of our Department of Navy organic capability? And looking at that blend, then we can provide those out. I find time and time again when I'm presented that hypothesis, I go, so when are we satisfied? When is things fast enough? When do we have enough? And quite honestly, I can't envision an end state where we are delivering things fast enough, because the mission we have is not a traditional mission. We're talking about national security. We're talking about it being agile to an adversary we don't even know exists today. And being able to do that, not just safely, but keeping our sailors and Marines safe so they don't die. It's not about deploying things. It's about making sure our sailors and Marines have unfair fights, away games, and come home safe. At the end of the day, the Office of Naval Research is focused on making sure we're enabling and discovering and providing the demonstrated capabilities for those sailors and Marines. And by gosh, the last 70 years, look out there. We have the most formidable Navy and Marine Corps in the world. Things are transitioning. Things are getting there. But as our CNO rightfully has stated, we can't sit on our laurels. The adversary's footsteps are right behind us. So we have to continue to focus on that innovative solution space and think not only from technology, but from ConOps and requirements and business and programmatic innovation, so that we can get things out there faster to maintain and retain that technological advantage.
One thing which I want to ask you, because you've spoken about this numerous times, is you can see anything as an impediment, or you can look at everything as an opportunity. There are some folks who say, well, there's got to be considerable acquisition re-engineering in order to be able to do this. Is that really necessary, or are there the existing authorities that if you have a really good idea, you can actually get it out there to the force and get it out quickly?
I've told every one of our congressional staffers that I've had the opportunity, and I'm very humbled by the incredible intellectual capital and awareness and desire to understand our Defense Department programs. The professional staffers are doing great work. They have provided us, our Congress has provided us all the authorities we need. We truly have. And the Department of the Navy has taken what I think is a lead in turning those authorities into actionable policies within the Department of the Navy, so that we can accelerate, minimize the time tax from good idea to yes, and from yes to bending metal and writing code and delivering warfighting capability. It's that internal policy and challenging those assumptions, and stop sitting back and saying everything's negative, and not putting on rose-colored glasses, but put your shoulder in to, if you have the authority, you need to make the decision. Not waiting for tomorrow. You need to make that decision today. But make sure it's informed, make sure you have the right stakeholders, and let's move forward, and let's move at the speed and the agility that we've been given the authority to do. The Office of Naval Research and the Chief of Naval Research has been given those umbrella authorities to do that in the S&T domain. And so our Chief of Naval Operations, who I applaud his leadership and focused on bringing that to the complete RDT&E spectrum, along with Mr. Stackley, who there has been no better SAE for the Department of the Navy. Combined together, you will see transformational movement and expeditious delivery of those program of records in the near future.
One very, very quick question, because I know you've got to go and you've already been very generous with your time, but I want to talk about the seabed, fiber optic cables, undersea pipelines. It is one of the most important engines for America and the economic prosperity of the United States and its allies. But we have a tendency of thinking that because it's on the bottom of the ocean floor, that nobody can touch it. And once upon a time, the United States had pretty much a monopoly on being able to touch it, and that monopoly no longer exists. And I understand that this skirts to very, very classified areas, but how much of your research is focused on the deep ocean, on surveillance, on sensing? Because if we're going to develop, for example, long-range underwater vehicles to map harbors, for example, not that we would ever do that, it means that an adversary could potentially do the same thing to try to do it at Norfolk, for example. How much effort is going into that? And how important a theater is that? You know, is it the most important theater that people aren't really talking a lot about?
Well, from a science and technology focus, Vago, we have 6 dedicated research directorates. One of those is Ocean, Battle, Space, and Undersea Research Directorate. In that, we arguably have been the leaders over the last 70 years in all advances in undersea phenomenology, awareness, and understanding. Our scientists in taking not just shallow, but deep research of all 7 seas, and understanding the salinity, the acoustic propagations, coming forward with understanding sea currents and actual tidal waves of undersea, those types of things that have provided us the mathematical representations that have gone into the models that our Admiral Gallaudet and his oceanographer teams at the meteorological commands use every day to support not only our ships at sea and our submarines, but also to all of the forecast and commercial weather guessers, forecast. I mean, all of that's come out of the Office of Naval Research, understanding of ocean and undersea research. So we continue to do that. It's been in a paramount, and quite honestly, it has been a naval national mission area from our very inception, and it will continue to be because nobody else is doing that. That's us. Now we have partnerships with NOAA and the other oceanographic WHOI and Scripps, and helping that continued exploration and understanding. But in that knowledge, and again in basic research and applied research, and understanding and discovery allows us to better inform and provide applications so that we can operate in the undersea, so that we can make sure that our national interests, be them data cables or just freedom of navigation, maritime superiority, what have you, is maintained. And our S&T efforts continue to underpin the capabilities for our sailors to do that.
Sir, thanks very much. Fair winds and following seas in the new assignment in the Joint Strike Fighter Project Office, and we look forward, Program Office, and we look forward to talking to you there.
Thanks, Vago. It's been a pleasure. Have a good afternoon.